Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be powder coating the rear subframe for the Charger. So in the last video, I got the back of the Charger all undercoated and now it looks great. I'm so glad I decided to take the extra time to do that, just because the bottom of these cars aren't really protected from the, the elements. They're just kind of, overspray primer, overspray paint. They have a little bit of E-coat on them. They look horrible. So this just really evens it out, also protects it, makes it look 100 times better. So I was in between powder coating the subframe gloss silver or gloss black. I decided that I'm going to powder coat it gloss black just because it will look really clean. And I already powder coated the subframe in FC gloss black and I think it looks great. So I don't think I want the subframe to pop out when you look underneath the car. I just want it to really just complement the car. I mean, the subframe looks great by itself, but it's part of the car. So we'll get that powder coated gloss black. Then I can throw the coilovers on it, all the suspension, Trackhawk wheels, get it back on the ground. I'm also gonna throw the front coilovers on it just so it's at the same ride height. So let's get over to the powder coating shop, get this subframe blasted, get it powder coated, get it back over here, and get it back in the car for the last final time. Subframe is now back home in gloss black powder coat and she looks so good. So I'm really happy I made the decision to powder coat this gloss black instead of silver, because I feel like the silver would have been way too flashy. So now what I'm going to do is I need to get everything to bolt this into the car. So what I need is Trackhawk brake rotors. I have the Trackhawk calipers downstairs that I powder coated. I also need to get all the arms. I have the adjustable arms here, but I need lower control arms. I need knuckles. I need to find I think driver's side parking brake cable. I think all of that is going to work together very well. And I need to get my bucket of miscellaneous bolts because I know I'm going to need some bolts for this. So let's head over to the junkyard, grab everything that we need to grab. I'll probably also grab the Magnum flow exhaust as well as the BC coilovers that I made true rear coilovers, just so we can get this whole back end completely assembled. Besides, the bumper will have to come off one more time, but the whole back of the suspension will be a 100% finish. Got everything for the rear suspension. I have two Trackhawk wheels. I have the differential from the Trackhawk. I'm gonna go clean the lower control arms up because the one had like an axle boot that was leaking because of the fire. Have the Trackhawk rotors. I also have the axles, knuckles, everything, even the rear coils. So the one thing about the rear coils is that the bottoms, I'm going to use the Charger front ones from the other BC coilovers that I got, and I'll have to later on make some. They'll work, they're just a little bit too wide. And by the time I get to the point where I'm driving the car, I should have this figured out. I designed one to be made out of aluminum so I could weld it to the Lexus one, because these are Lexus coilovers converted to true rear coilovers for the Charger instead of using that separate spring setup, because I really don't like those setups because to me, they're very variable, because when you set the suspension, you have to set the ride height, and then the damper is separate from it. But I feel like you never can get preload on it because it's a separate spring. Like this, I have these set with preloaded, and I have different springs now. So I think I have this set up. I can't remember if the rear is 14K. No, these are 12K rear, and I think 14K front, but I also have 10 and 16 or something like that. So I could change the spring setup if I don't like how it feels, especially if I want a little bit softer. I could go to 10K springs in the rear and she'll squat a little bit more. Now I have the subframe bolted into the Charger, all the Trackhawk suspension, the brakes, the axles, the differential, the modified coilovers that I made, everything is in here. She's undercoated, we have brake lines. What I need to do is modify a few things that I wasn't expecting for them to need to be modified. but I have one of the Trackhawk wheels on this side and it's a little bit too thin. So it's about 3 inches too short or too narrow. So what I'm gonna do is go from a 20 by 10, which is a factory Trackhawk wheel, to a 21 by 13 on all 4 corners, which will be like a 355 or a 375 inch wide tire, which will be really nice because I'll know all the power is gonna get to the ground and I'm not gonna have to worry about any wheel spin because it's a big issue with Hellcats. But since this is gonna be all-wheel drive, this thing is gonna be a monster. So I'm really happy that I powder coated the calipers that tennis ball yellow, just because, you know, I know blue and that color are very close on the color wheel, and I just had that powder coat from when I powder coated the FC wheels over there. So they are the same, they glow in the dark, and I really like how they look. So now that I have all of this set up and I know everything is good to go, we have the subframe in there. You can see the subframe bushings that I made, and I'm really happy that I did that in the charcoal, or it's just clear anodized, which makes it kind of like a titanium or a charcoal color. All the adjustable arms are the same way. And one thing that I'm gonna have to modify is the lower control arm. So the lower control arm, actually, it works. So all the suspension geometry wise, it is perfect. But since it wasn't meant for a Charger suspension setup, the coil, as you can see, it's sitting a little bit further back. So I'm gonna have to make this come out so it's nice and straight. And when I do that, I'm probably just gonna end up making an adjustable lower control arm. So I'll make an adjustable lower control arm. I'll get rid of, this is a BR mount, so I'll get rid of this. I have one of the Lexus DS mounts from these original coilovers, because these are Lexus coilovers turned into true coilovers for a Charger. And they have, you know, I have 12K springs in the rear and I think 14K in the front, but I also have a bunch of different springs because it came with 2 kits. So I had a Charger kit and then I had the Lexus kit. So I have, I think, 12K, 14K, 10K, 11K or something like that, or maybe 16K or something. So we have all of these adjustable arms and they adjust. Look at that, looks so nice. And then we have the powder coated calipers, and we have the solid subframe bushings, Trackhawk diff and axles. Everything is nice and ready to go. So other than the control arm having to be modified just because this coilover is a little bit too far back, I accidentally forgot to measure that bushing that goes in between for this traction rod right here. Or this is a, what is this? This is a traction rod, I think, something, but I need to make that a little bit wider. And also it has an eccentric bolt, which I forgot. So it has one of these bolts right here, which is a little bit wider than what I designed everything for. So I'm just gonna have to make 2 of those. I'm gonna have to make the lower control arm, but I should be able to set this on the ground to see what it looks like in a few days. So I wanna get that eccentric spacer redone so I can put that eccentric bolt in, because this, if I put it down and try to push it, it doesn't tighten up, which is the issue. So other than that, I don't have any other problems with this. So we have the sway bar, it's gonna bolt up nice. I need to get some stainless steel brake lines, because the ones off of the Trackhawk, they were melted because that thing caught on fire big time. And that's what these calipers were off of. So these calipers, the rotors, and everything. So pretty much all I need to do is modify the lower control arm, make that bushing, and maybe remake a, I think this is a traction rod. I don't know, there's a bunch of arms. This is a camber one, that's something else. But once I remake, or I might need to remake this because it might be a little bit too short. So I shortened it, but I'll wait till I get this thing aligned so I know if it's too short and I have not enough threads, because I think there's still about that much on that bushing or on this heim joint. So I think there's enough threads in it. But if I have to adjust it out any further, I'll have to remake that and make it a little bit longer. But yeah, look at that subframe in there, nice and shiny. We have this all nice and undercoated. The coilover, the adjustable arms, the lower control arm, the diff. I mean, this is really nice. I'm really happy that I did these into true coils. One reason I did it was because the spring perches were in different spots, but another reason is because the spring is separate. You can't preload the spring, which, if you've ever raced a car and you've driven a 350Z that has true coils and one that doesn't, it's very noticeable which one has it and which doesn't, and which one handles better. So I'm really happy that this is now true coil. And BC actually said that this couldn't be done, which was pretty funny because I had all the stuff. It took me 2 kits to make and everything. But I'm gonna end the video here because we're pretty close, but I need to make those few little things at the machine shop tomorrow, then get them anodized, which will probably take a couple days, and then get them in the car. So if you haven't watched my Chief Donut Maker video, make sure to check that out. Link is up here. But I'm gonna end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, comment below. As always, see you guys next time.